we're back. If you think about in your history books, or if you studied the classics as I did in high school, there was always somebody that helped you cross a river. The river Styx, and you would go into Hades or into the kingdom, the unknown. If you Egyptians had somebody which crossed over a river. In Harry Potter, there was different allusions to somebody that crossed you across water. In The Hobbit, there was somebody across the river to get to one side of the or a lake. Well, today we're going to talk about something right here in Chautauqua County that has to do with a ferryman that takes you from point A to point B. And I want to welcome my guest, Chris Flanders, who has written a book. So, Chris, good morning.
Good morning.
So, Chris, you were on in the studio years ago with Reed Powers, and I was his sidekick at the time, and I think you talked a little bit about a trip you had done down.
We've done a sailing adventure from Buffalo Harbor all the way down to the Bahamas.
Whew. That was quite an adventure.
It was two ladies on a boat.
Two ladies on a boat,
yeah.
And you made it, and you're still here.
Yeah.
So, do you still sail?
Not as much.
Mm-hmm.
Not as much.
Okay. So, you've gone from. Let's go backwards in time. So, you wrote a book, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. You sailed all the way down to the Bahamas, but what did you do before all that?
I was a wife and a mother of two sons, and I then went back to school and got my nurse practitioner degree, and I practiced a little bit here, and I was in Buffalo for quite a while.
Now, a lot of people may not be familiar with the term nurse practitioner. I kind of know what it is, and I don't want to embarrass myself by giving a definition. So tell us what a nurse practitioner does. It's
a master level degree that you get, and mostly you've earned nurse first, which is good. You can practice independently. You can practice along with doctors, which is what is usually done here. I went originally up to Buffalo because I was working for a cardiac group up there, intervention, putting in stents, that type of thing. And then I switched over to working in the CMICU at Gates in Buffalo. It was a good career, really good career.
Good for you.
Yeah.
And I know nurse practitioner is a high level, high degree of responsibility, I guess you'd say. So that's great. We have quite a few nurses in our family, so that's nice to hear.
Well, we're handy to have around. You know.
Okay, so Chris Flanders, you wrote a book, and tell us about it. Why did you write it, and what's the backstory on it?
Well, in my retirement, I've gotten onto the board of the Bemus Point-Stow Ferry, and I'm also become a driver for the ferry. So my partner and I
drive the ferry?
We drive the ferry on Sunday nights. And we hear all these stories and all these wonderful people coming back that have been away, remember being on it when they were little. It's a great thing to do, and it's run by the Sealand Corporation, and they have taken over the ferry exclusively. That's the only boat that they have now, and we've been trying to figure out a good way to raise some more money to do all the repairs that we've done over the last 3 years. And I thought, I'll write a book.
All right.
You know, I had 2,000 or 3,000 photos of the ferry. I thought maybe writing a book would be a good idea.
Now, Randy works with you?
Yep.
Randy Burton?
He's on the ferry.
Well, what's his job?
He actually is doing the website for the ferry, and I'm helping him with that. And that's going to be a very nice thing, a nice part of our advertising.
To be a driver, are you a captain?
Well, I have my captain's license from the Coast Guard. Okay, 100 ton. I got that when we went away to go to the Bahamas, but you have to have a pilot engineer license to drive the ferry, and you can get that through the Department of Recreation in New York State. And you have to take an exam. You have to retake the exam every 5 years, and you're issued a license, pilot's license.
I'm sitting here and that's way cool.
It's way cool, yeah.
It's way cool.
It's really good.
Wow.
You know,
Is it hard?
And this year we are using people that aren't licensed to be the second person on the ferry. So there's always going to be two people.
So like Gilligan.
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, exactly.
Oh wow, I didn't realize that. All right. So I think a lot of people they forget that, you know, you take on a project, but something has to support it. So it's sort of like, good news, I'm going to give you a pony for your birthday. And then they walk away. It's like, well, wait a minute. I find things like the ferry is like that pony. It's like, congratulations, you got a ferry, now take care of it. So what kind of upkeep is there?
The upkeep's huge. I mean, the boat itself, the hull of the boat is 1929 steel hull. And everything else on it is been taken care of, sort of, all along, maintenance work. But years ago, it was taken over, in 1944, it was taken over by the highway department, by the county. And they ran it. It was actually part of the highway department. In fact, people's GPS will still take them across it, even in the winter, when we're not there. So that's kind of bad. That was run 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. It was tough. The ferry had some maintenance done on it by them, but not a whole lot. It just was used and used and used. When we took it over, when the bridge was built in '82, the ferry should have died at that point, and it didn't. There were too many people that didn't want it to go away because it's been such a big part of the county. The ferry was started in 1811. I mean, so this 1811. So this year will be the 210th season. That's one of the oldest things in the county.
Yes.
Okay.
I mentioned I'm a town historian. In 1811, get you.
Well, Chautauqua County was formed in 1811.
Yeah.
Because it finally had 500 settlers.
Right, and in Ripley, you know, we go back to 1816 as a corporated community, but we have settlers back in 1804 and things like that. So this was a pretty kind of like a virgin woods and
this was virgin primitive. Woods. I mean, William Bemus and James Prendergast came. They were living in Troy at the time, and they brought their extended families and came west to the wilderness. They were actually going to Tennessee. They went to Tennessee. They didn't like it, but they had passed through Chautauqua County, and they came back because it was perfect. It was just what they wanted. His
older brother, Prendergast, settled in Ripley. Just his house still exists just at the bottom of our road on Route 20.
Well, there you go. There you go.
It's amazing.
So in 1805, William Bemus and his family bought land. He bought land on both sides, Bemus and Stowe, and his son Thomas settled on Stowe's side. They had pastures on both sides. They had cattle to bring back and forth. They had feed that had to go back and forth.
Okay.
And so they made a really rough log raft, and they poled it across and poled it back. And it's about 1,000 feet. It's not that far, but if the wind's blowing, the lake's pretty shallow, the waves get high, it's tough to get back and forth.
Yeah.
There was no alternative to going any. There weren't roads on the side of the road. There were just barely trails. There were no trolleys yet. There were no steamboats yet. So other people said, "Please, can you help me? Can I get across?" It saved them 5 days going around the end of the lake.
Are you kidding?
By horse,
wow.
23 miles,
yeah.
And it also saved them just a huge amount of trouble, you know, because the roads weren't there. So
it was. How do I put this? Extremely important to the community.
It was like this. It's like the center of the county. Okay,
yeah.
The lake was a very big part of commerce in the beginning. I mean, and so that helped everybody. It had a lot of changes in it. You know, it became a nice flat deck type log raft. After a while, they eventually strung a rope across. And they could pull themselves back and forth because the poling was bad. When they built the bridge in '82, or when they finished it in '82, they had done soundings because they figured the bridge should go right across at Stowe, and there was like 50 feet of muck before they hit anything solid. It just wasn't worth doing it here, so they moved slightly south from here to do it. And it was hard. So it was hard to pole because you'd lose your pole.
Okay, so Bemus was the one that built the ferry.
Bemus was the one that built. Thomas Bemus was the one that built the ferry.
So where do the Stowes come in?
You know, I'm not sure exactly how they fit into the corner there, but they were obviously right there.
Because I know a lot of the Stowe family to this day.
I'm sure they probably, some of them drove the ferry, you know.
So there was some connection in there.
Oh, I'm sure. I am absolutely.
So what's the official name of the ferry?
It's the Bemus Point-Stow Ferry.
Okay.
Okay. It has changed only one day. to the Stow Bemus Point Ferry. And that was when they used to have a tug of war across the ferry. One the ferry was attached to 2 ropes, and whoever won got to have their name. And Stow never had their name first. One day.
One day. Oh my God! I've never heard that story.
That was
That's cool.
That was quite a long time ago, and it will never be done again either. It was just
okay. So
it was a one-time thing.
I want to make sure I say this correctly. Then the Bemus Point-Stow Ferry. Okay.
Right.
Very good. Okay, so 1811. It's just a pretty primitive kind of a thing. So then what happened next?
It's very primitive. They made the raft a little larger. I mean, they're carrying wagons, teams of horses, cattle, sheep, almost everything that needed to go back and forth, or people who were going on through trying to head toward Buffalo from here, would come across to keep going. The first steamboat got on the lake about 1828, and it was all by itself for 10 years. It was called the Chautauqua, and it was a side wheel paddle.
All right.
And that was all well and good, but it tended to cut the rope when he went through. And off the log raft would go, and it'd have to be towed back up by a boat. That happened even more so when the Great White Fleet started 10 years later, where they had a lot of steamboats traveling from end to end on the lake, and they ended up with a deal that they would blow their whistle or blow their horn, whatever, before they came across, so that the rope or eventually the cable wouldn't get cut.
As I recall, the steamboat industry was really a big deal in Chautauqua County.
It was a huge. It's a pretty place. And for people that were living in bigger towns at the time, it was a wonderful place to come in the summer to stay away from disease and that type of thing. And so the steamboats would pick people up from the train and bring them up to the hotels that were all around the lake, the great big, huge wooden hotels. You mentioned that it saved 5 days travel by horse to go all the way around to the other side. I remember, because I worked at the Hughes Center for years, and when my friends that lived in Maple Springs or Bemus Point, they said, God, it didn't take them, I forgot, 45 minutes to get to work. And when that bridge was finished, it took them 5 minutes to get to work. Precisely.
So, I mean, it's you don't even think about that and think about gasoline, time, resources, everything. Those little things in our lives we don't even appreciate sometimes.
No, you don't. Until the bridge was built, it was really important for people to have that. First of all, going to work.
Yeah.
And second of all, people going to take their kids over to Midway for the day to skate or to do boating or something like that and get back. Or when my dad was young, to go over to the casino and go upstairs and dance to the big bands. Yeah. And he said, everybody just had to scramble to get that midnight ferry back home, or else
last call.
That was it. That was just it. Most parents wouldn't come and get them if they didn't make it. So.
Okay, so you put together a book memorializing the history.
Really, the history, and it's obviously it was done as a fundraiser. But I'm a real history buff, and I didn't think people had any idea how important this ferry had been for this huge, long length of time. So
you have some key dates and things that you were going to talk about. So why don't you go through some of them and share some more of the history of this?
Well, when the Bemuses first came, there was very little cleared land here. On the Bemus side, it turned out that there were some fields that were cleared, and also some plantings that were there from the Indians. And so William Bemus was able to put a crop in right away the first year, and usually you're busy clearing and making a cabin, a log cabin of some kind. But there was a lot of indications where the Indians had been on both sides. It was slow to be opened up, but there were 500 settlers in 1811. I mean, that's pretty impressive, really, if you think about it. At that point, everybody else was trying to go further west. But the people that came through here, a lot of them turned around and came back, which is great.
Life.
It's been really, really good for us. So we have now the steamboats in the 1820s. You've got the steamboats in 30s going up and down the lake, taking people places. You still need to get across the lake. You still can't get across the lake very well. And so the ferry got bigger. They ended up, a man named Elton Ball from 1900 to 1942 was the engineer of the ferry. And he changed the way the ferry was built. He made improvements. He put engines on it. Because up to that point, they had a cable that came up through a big pulley and a crank.
Oh my gosh.
And you had to crank it back and crank it over. And usually the operators were fairly young, and they'd have their friends come, and everybody would crank to go back and forth. It was almost a social place. It was a place where people met to be together. Well, this is Elton Ball right now, and that's the first steam engine. The first one was run by Naphtha, which I didn't know anything about until my dad told me. But they eventually went to a one-cylinder engine in 1908. Okay.
I'm looking at this engine. I'm thinking that probably would run a car. I mean, it's not that big.
Just barely. Anyway, in 1916 they went to a four-cylinder engine. Okay. 1928 they ran two ferries because Alton made a really good one. The hull was built in Jamestown, the big steel hull. It's the one that's on it now. And so they ran the old one and the new one for one season.
How'd that work?
It was
two different cables?
Complicated, yeah. Each of them had one cable.
I never knew that.
It worked, I guess. So anyway, to give an idea of why we were having to do so much maintenance on the ferry the last 3 years, that hull from 1929 is actually in pretty good shape considering. So Chautauqua County bought it in 1943. In 1944 the ferry sank at the dock at Stowe, and the deck floated off. And they managed to get it all back together. They bailed it out. The fire companies bailed it out. Was there a storm or something? Yeah, well, it was the ice going out, did it?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The ferry has always been parked at Stowe, except for a couple of times. So, makes you wonder why it isn't the Stowe Bemus Point Ferry. Yeah. So when the county got it, they enlarged it. It was two pontoons. They put a center one in. Okay. They made it wider. They put the engine off to the side on an outrigger type thing so that they could get more cars on. So we can get 9 cars. And some people. Or we can have no cars and 50 people. And we've had it all different ways, that's for sure. Okay. So the bridge was started in 72. It got stopped right away. The construction got stopped for environmental purposes. 78 it started again, finished in 82. That's when we took it over, and it's called the Sea Lion Project Limited. That's the name of our group. And the reason we took it over was that we didn't want to see it go. So we had the Sea Lion, which we built.
Right.
We had another boat named the Griffin.
I don't remember that one.
We had this, and we had the Chautauqua Belle.
Right.
Okay. So eventually the Chautauqua Belle was sold. Eventually the Sea Lion went to a place called Henricus in Virginia. It's a restored 1600 village.
Right.
And they're going to restore it.
Great.
So now we have the ferry. We took it off the cables for the first time. People might not know that you can drive that without being hooked on the 2 cables. We put a big rudder on the back, start the engines up, the paddles go, and at about 3 miles an hour we can get all the way to Mayville in about 4 hours. It's not quick. The first time, let me show you another book. This is The Fairy Tale by Art Thomas. This is a book that he wrote in 2011. And he tells a story in here about that first time they took it off the cables. And he said, there were boats all around us. Everybody was having parties and, talking and laughing, And he said they made it from Stowe to Midway, and everybody kind of left because it was going to take all day. So we've done that several times since to get the ferry repaired. We've taken it up and put it on the cradle in Mayville at the park and done some repair work. So it's okay. So she's been reconditioned. She's had some work done on her. But about 2018, we really hit the wall.
Yeah.
We couldn't get it all done. We're an all-volunteer, not-for-profit organization, and boy, our volunteers are very handy. They can do everything. We've got welders, we've got people that do construction, we've got people who can do electric, we have people that really, really know boats. So up until 2018, we never really had to have anybody help us. Some of the companies down in Jamestown would have to make parts for it because they don't sell. There aren't that many ferries around anymore.
They don't make widgets anymore.
So we're one of only 2 or 3 cable ferries left in the country.
Wow.
So it's really worth keeping her here.
Yep, lots of history.
Lots and lots of history.
So before I want to talk to you right now at this point, as people are saying, well, how do I get a copy of this book? How do they do that?
Well, the book finally came from the publisher. The printing house had COVID, so that got delayed, and I got it the week before Christmas.
Okay.
So I sold it out of my house for a long time. It's now at Off the Beaten Path. It's a bookstore in Lakewood.
Okay.
It's at the Town of North Harmony's new building on Stow Ferry Road. In the summer, it'll be at Hogan's. It'll be at Lawson Boat Center over in Bemus. It'll be maybe at some of the other Bemus. It'll be in Chautauqua.
Okay.
And if anybody wants to carry it, I'd be glad to have you. I'd be glad to have you give me a call.
And
that
what
would
are
be great.
you charging for it?
Charging $20 for it.
Okay.
The money goes directly to the ferry.
Okay.
I gave them the book.
Awesome.
So
very good.
yeah.
We have a lot of pictures, and I know you got some notes. So maybe we just run.
Let's run the pictures.
I'll let you
that'd be
dialogue and narrate, and let's be as descriptive as we can
Okay.
for those that are listening. All right, here we go.
Well, this is to show that it's a historical ferry. So this is the markers at Stow and also at Bemus Point. And one of the more poignant things that happened when we were doing the repair is that had to be moved when we were swinging the ferry out of the water, and it was upside down against a tree all summer. Made me sad. Anyway,
Okay.
so you see the next one.
Yep.
This is a real early picture of the ferry. This is in the Bemus end. And you can see the engines on the left side. It's the north side because the winds tend to come down the lake.
All right, so these are black and whites. Obviously, it's early, so I'm guessing, what, 1920s maybe?
Probably 1920, 1910, something like that.
Okay. Straw hats on them and big hoop dresses.
Just awesome, just awesome.
Oh, little kids riding the ferry. I bet that would have been a lot of fun in those days for them.
So there's part of the Great White Way. That's the Pittsburgh, I think, and this is a lady sitting waiting at the Bemus dock.
1,000 feet, you said.
1,000 feet.
And it says 5 days by horse. Isn't that amazing?
It's unbelievable, really, really.
Oh, there's God, is it a Model T or something?
That's a Model T, I think, yeah.
Yeah, it's on and that particular version of the ferry is pretty narrow.
It is old. The slides seem to have narrowed down a little bit, but it still was not very wide. But Model Ts weren't very wide.
So there's the driver and his passengers. Okay, there's Ball again.
That's Alton Ball again, and one of his steam
By any
machines.
chance, was he related to Lucille Ball? Or no?
Everybody's asked me, not that we know of, not that we can find out. These drivers have got a metal railing around the wooden platform now.
It's much wider now.
Actually have uniforms on and hats, so look quite official.
Very official, and there's 2 cars on there now.
2 cars on there now, yeah.
Now, you have to have certain safety features on there, like life preservers and...
We have life preservers for everybody. We've got all kinds of safety things. We have hoops in case somebody goes over. We have just...
How deep is the water there?
Where we come up in Stow, we are sitting on the mud when we hit the ramp.
So you can walk out.
I'm just saying, yeah, you can almost walk off the ferry. In Bemus, it's a little bit deeper. It may be 35 feet, maybe in the center.
Oh, all right. Well, then you got to have some.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of depth there.
I thought you could just walk across.
Yeah.
I guess not. Okay. Oh.
That's Alton Ball.
Arr.
Isn't he grand?
Yeah, I love his hat.
I love his collar. I think that's
look
so
how high. It gets really windy out there, I bet.
He was one of the people that was, we have several people that have been really big as far as the ferry is concerned. He was one of them.
Now, he was the engineer for many years?
40 years, 42 years.
Really?
Really.
Woo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. from, this is a 1944, the rates for going across the ferry.
So a passenger car, including all occupants, was a whopping 25 cents.
Exactly.
So,
But look at the livestock at the bottom.
livestock on
It was
foot
always
per
cheaper to
head,
take your
10
cow over than it was to take your car.
Just pedestrians, 5 cents. So what are the rates now?
It's all donation.
Oh,
It's all done
okay,
by donation,
okay.
so we don't have to worry about that anymore.
Oh, now we're up to
Well, kind of the 60s.
Six
Yeah,
cars?
pretty close, yeah. And you can see they've got, it's off on an outrigger, the engine, all right, and the docking at each end. You can see the casino. I think the casino was built in the 20s. This just gives you a little bit idea of how many cars they could get on.
So if you start on the Stowe side, you get everybody loaded up, how long does it take now to go from point A to point B?
It takes probably about 10 minutes to go across, and it takes about 5 or 6 minutes to unload and load.
It's the time
It's
factor is
time.
incredible.
I can't imagine doing it in rough water.
Oh,
But this is, again, another older picture. It just shows you how much people needed to use this. They really liked it.
and they probably lined up for a long
Yep,
time to get
yep.
across. It was
This is
the best
another
way
one
to
of the
go.
old postcards from the 70s. So the little houses on the corners have all been different sizes and shapes. 2 of them on the north side are where the controls are to drive the ferry back and forth. And all the little kids that get on the ferry think it's going to be a great big wheel. But we don't have to go anywhere. We just go, and
Straight line.
it's a joystick. It's really quite a disappointment. We let them push the joystick anyway, but anyway, yeah, the slides are quite narrow right now for some reason. But
So there it's leaving, I don't know, what side are we
it's
on?
leaving Stowe because
Stowe.
the lighthouse is
All right,
right
now
there.
there's 2 little towers there. What are those?
The birdhouses or those are the houses on the side of the.
The 2 sides there with the glass and the
Those are the corner. There's a house in each corner, a pilot house in each corner.
Oh, I
They're
didn't realize they were that tall.
They aren't that tall. The slide's all condensed. It's all squished.
Okay.
Right now. Yeah. Anyway, and it
Okay,
shows. You
okay.
see the 2 birdhouses behind there.
Uh-huh.
Those are Purple Mountain houses. They're
Oh, all
they're
right.
birds that everybody really, really wants to keep coming back here. We've got Lighthouse has Purple Mountain houses. Jamestown has them. We've got them up in Chautauqua.
I have one at my house and they haven't come yet.
Well, they put them there because the spotlights attract so many bugs. It was really annoying, and the Purple Mountains take care of it. So this is the other people.
Big John.
There's John Cheney
He's been here.
and his wife Betty Lou. They did their 40 years for the ferry. Just did everything.
Yep, John was on the Repower show years ago when
Yeah.
I was here, and he
Yeah.
was really interesting to talk with.
Yeah, I was so glad to get to know him. He was just nice. His daughter Martha now is one of the co-presidents for the
Oh,
board.
good. Yeah, he was a lot of fun, I remember.
Yeah. So the ferry's used for a lot of things that people might not know about. Every summer in June, we get 4th graders to come from almost all the schools, and we put them on a tarp on the deck, and John and Betty Lou would tell them all about the ferry and how to use a life jacket and that type of thing. It's neat for the kids.
Well, in 4th grade, they learned New York State history.
So this is part of
the
it,
local.
yeah.
We have a phone call. Want to take a phone call? Mm-hmm. All right, good morning, caller.
Good morning, Doc. Good morning, Chris. This is Linda Spalding.
Hi.
Chris, I'm great to see. It's wonderful to see you on the show. You must know how much I love to take that ferry. I have been a fan of it for years, and I take it every summer.
Good.
When it's running.
Well, it'll be running starting Memorial Day.
All
Oh,
right.
that will be wonderful.
It'll
That's
be-
wonderful. I'm so glad that it has been restored and we have it in use again.
Well, it's so much part of Chautauqua County, isn't it?
Oh, it is.
I mean, all you have to say
Everybody's got a story.
everybody, you just say, take the ferry, and everybody knows what you're talking about, you know?
Yeah, and you can get on as a pedestrian or with your bike or your car or whatever.
Exactly. It's good. No, it needs to still be here.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
It's really part of our wonderful Chautauqua County. Well, I just wanted to say good morning and thank you, and have a wonderful weekend.
All right.
Thanks for calling.
All right, Lynn, thanks as always. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Super. All right, let's keep those photos rolling. All right. What we
So
got?
this is them teaching the kids all about life jackets. John is quite a prankster. He would there are straps that go under the kids' legs, and he'll reach back to the handle and lift them up off the ground. And then Betty would always make him put the kids down. He said, "No, you can't do that," you know. So.
Give him a hard time.
So the ferry also, because a lot of these old car groups, bicycle groups, they all use the ferry as a figure-8 course. And so we always have, sometimes we'll even run it a special day if they're coming through to let them come on. And these guys just love coming across the ferry.
All right, now I see the pilot houses. They're more
They're
the right size.
they're taller than I am, but they're not as tall
in
as
the other
top.
picture. They look like about
Yeah.
20 feet tall.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And motorcycles.
Oh, my
groups.
gosh.
And they are the best tippers. They come
Really?
through. They are so tickled to be on the ferry.
How many motorcycles can you fit? Do you know offhand?
How many what?
Motorcycles?
We've had, I think, 30 on.
Well, that makes about
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
It was most impressive.
And how many cars now? 9, you said?
9 cars.
9 cars? Wow.
And then all the bicycle. This is the Grand Fondo
Yeah,
race.
yeah. The guys here,
And they
ride
always
in it.
use that. And then they have the rest stop is there too. All the food, snacks, and drinks and stuff like that they do on the way across.
Excellent.
It's really, really nice.
Uh-oh.
So this is 2018, and a bunch of us in the cold weather came up and tore the wooden deck off. And at the time we took it off, it was long, 20-something foot long, 5 wide, 2x4s, and they're on their edges. And we found out that we had a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
That was really kind of a bellwether day. That was something. So I have a couple pictures here showing you, the general condition of the ferry when we finally took it up in 2018.
Yeah.
That's looking down into the bilge.
Now, this is the 1929
Yeah.
hull?
Yeah, the steel hull is 1929. So some of it was cosmetic. This is cosmetic. It's not dangerous. But we brought her up at that time, and we replaced, I think, 12 of the I-beams that go across the metal deck.
Wow.
I think there's an aerial picture here that might show. There
you go. Yeah.
You can see the ones that we were replacing in the center there. This is up in Mayville at the park.
Now, how do you get that out of the water? Is it on wheels or something?
There's a carriage there that brings the Chautauqua Bell up, and we modify it to put the ferry on it.
Gotcha.
And then he has a bulldozer come and haul our self
All
out
right.
of there. It works out just fine. Yeah. So there she is. You'll notice that the flag is at half-mast. That's the day that John Cheney died.
Oh,
And a lot of us ended up at the ferry
yeah.
because we didn't know what else to do.
Yeah.
So this is just a picture of all the welding that went on. There's a company in Buffalo called Whole Industries, and he volunteered 30 hours or something like that of marine welding for us and donated it.
That's specialized welding, too.
Yeah, it's triple welding. And he didn't charge us for it. He did it as a donation. We would never have gotten that much done, ever. So we did, in 2018, we thought we had it aced. We had that. We were going to come back and put the deck on and have it inspected, and we were going to go. And we got down there, and the inspector wouldn't pass us. We had taken the ferry back and forth a couple of times just to make sure that everything else was going well. But there had been a lot of leaking from the deck down into the bilge, and it had worn away, particularly in the center, which is a little bit lower, the hull, some of the hull down there. So we were not deemed safe. So this is the repairing of the hull. We had pulled it out, called the Big Lift. We had a huge crane that whole Industries brought down. We lifted her up, put her down. They cut a hole in it and repaired it. It's been dry since then, absolutely rock dry. This is a picture of it with a crane.
Okay. This seems hard to believe, but we're down to a minute.
I know. Well, that's the
How's
way
that?
it goes.
So
My last thought is
Yeah, yeah.
please come ride the ferry. It's going to open on Memorial Day. We'll be open every weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Come get a book if you'd like. It'll be available there and several other places, and donate if you can.
what are the hours?
It's 4 to 9. on Friday, noon to 9, Saturday and Sunday.
All right.
And we're going to try to throw some extra time in. We'll let you know.
Okay, why don't you hold up that book, and Justin, let's do a close-up on it. So, folks, you've been watching Chautauqua Sunrise. My guest today has been Chris Flanders, who is the author of The Bemus Point-Stow Ferry, A History. And it's $20, and you can get it at a variety of different places, so look for it this summer. The proceeds go to support the ferry, and as you saw, a lot of repairs on it. So there you have it. And Randy, I understand, contributed some photos to that as well.
He did.
What a guy. What a guy. All right, so that's a wrap. Chris, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Anything comes up with the ferry, let us know, and we'll announce it for you. How's that
We
sound?
will. We'll do that.
All right, guys, next week, it's pre-taped. Don't call in. You can call. I don't know if everybody will answer it, but don't call in. And then we're going to be back after St. Patrick's Day, so I guess I'll just say enjoy the warm weather. Be careful out there. And with St. Patrick's Day, be careful as well. And keep the mask on and the social distancing, and we'll all be safe. So take care, and we'll see you all again next time. I'm Doc Hamels. Bye-bye.